Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up Michigan. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Boy, how appropriate, Motor City Madmouth with this broadcast. And we are on a new night, Monday night. Okay, Monday night with George Eichorn and Madman Mancini and the Motor City Madmouth. It doesn't get any better than this. And, well, Mark, what are your thoughts about our new evening here on Monday night?
Well, I'll tell you, man, if people aren't listening, they should be listening. It should be the domino effect. This is the most must-see, must-hear show that's sweeping the country this time of the night. You have to put everything down, put the kids to bed if you're in the East Coast, stop what you're doing on the West Coast, pull to the side of the road if you're in traffic, and listen to this damn show, because with George, you and I, we lay the facts and we lay the smack.
No doubt about it. And George, great segue, though, George.
That's a great segue, man. I'll tell you what, we got Madman fired up here, and I'm just as fired up too, Scott. We're going to have a great show tonight, Monday night. Hey, what can you say?
Yeah,
we know Monday Night Football started all the trend back in the 1970s with ABC and Howard Cosell and Monday Night Football. So Monday night's a great night for sports, and people are not going to be disappointed. We're having a great show.
No, we will. Don't talk about a guy that I despise, Howard Cosell. You'll get me ranting before this is over with, and I'll never get any sleep. But yeah, George Eichorn, I should point out, my longtime partner on the Sports Exchange. Here we up on Fire Up Michigan, new night, Monday night. So hope you can find us on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. You get to watch us. And if you want to go out there and hear the audio version, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts, we'll get it done. With that said, let me give you a preview of what's in store tonight. We're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions getting the NFL draft, a little bit of information about the Quick Lane Bowl and how it became that, and finally, the MLS, Major League Soccer, why they did not go to Detroit and how they go ahead and set the double standard about one thing, but all of a sudden, you don't have it in another place. If you wonder what that means, stick around. We got a lot going on. With that said, the Detroit Lions are going to be getting the NFL draft. I believe that's next year, right, George?
2 years. In 2 years.
Okay, so you got 2 years to get it going. And you talk about the economic impact being about $200 million. And I know that Hyundai is the NFL sponsor, and the Ford family probably had something to do with it. And I wouldn't even be surprised if Roger Penske was involved. So with that said, George, let's talk about how excited everybody is about the NFL draft. And where and before you go there, tell me where a lot of the events are going to be held for the NFL draft.
Well, they haven't released all the details yet. They're trying to do an outdoor theme, just like you saw in Las Vegas and some of the other cities. Nashville did such a wonderful job. And the speculation is that they would use campus marshes. Campus marshes is like a square in the middle of Detroit, like a roundabout almost. That's where they have the ice skating rink. That's where they have the Christmas tree. And they have a lot of activities there. The other option is if they want to go further, Scott, down Woodward, they could go towards the city county building, towards Jefferson over there, which is also prime property. They could really go anywhere. They could probably will close down Woodward Avenue, the main thoroughfare, and they could pretty much hold tens of thousands of people down Woodward and try to marvel and try to rival, those numbers that Nashville and Vegas have put up for the draft. But there's also talk, though, Madman and Scott, that they're going to utilize, some of the existing arena, the Ford Field, for example. It doesn't sound like they want to go in Ford Field for the draft, but some of the ancillary events and the NFL experience and things like that, they want to use Ford Field, and heck, they could use Comerica Park and obviously Little Caesars Arena, which is nearby too. So I think you'll see a real sporty theme, and they'll try to use as much of the available spots they can downtown.
Yeah, that was my question. Yeah, how much does Ford Field factor into the utilization of the NFL draft? Because let's face it, first class, top-notch facility, and I realize that they haven't graduated to this inside a stadium yet. At least at this particular point, they're looking at some sort of theaters or things that they can make along the lines of accommodate a lot of people. And of course, you and I had the opportunity to cover the NBA draft once upon a time over at the Palace of Auburn Hills. So we saw the green room, the war rooms, and it was pretty neat. But staying on point, though, with the NFL draft, okay. Now, one thing people should understand about the city of Detroit is you have Little Caesars, Comerica Park, and Ford Field within, about a mile of each other exactly?
Approximately, yeah.
Yeah, so you have three major venues, and that'll segue into something we're going to get to in a little while. But let's talk about the role of Ford Field for the NFL draft.
I
You have
think
any
it's going to,
idea?
I think if there's a potential there, they could use part of it, but I don't think they want to have the draft actually in Ford Field. That being said, you are taking a risk in Michigan. Of course, the draft is in April. And as you know, Scott and Madman, I mean, the weather up north, it's very unpredictable that time of year. That being said, obviously you can build, overhangs, the stage and everything will be covered, I'm sure, to protect against the elements. But I think the intention is to have it outside. But I'm wondering about if they wanted the frigid temperatures and weather, they may want to keep Ford Field. Obviously, they will have it available.
Yeah, I would think that it would probably be a very good contingency backup plan if Mother Nature isn't cooperating for sure. Obviously, you're not doing anything with Little Caesar Arena, and of course, we know about Comerica Park being strictly an outdoor venue.
Yeah.
But Ford Field is what it is. I've only been there a few times. I love the Silver Dome, but that's for another day. But yeah, I don't think that Ford Field is the worst thing that could happen for it. And for a lot of you folks who are watching, yes, I am wearing a Lions attire tonight to go with the theme of what we're talking about as well. But again, you're telling me that the details are there. So let's talk about the 200 million economic impact of what's going on. Downtown Detroit is starting to land a lot of the bigger events there as well. Why don't you go into some of the bigger events that the area is landing, knowing that the NFL draft obviously is a real big one.
Yeah, well, the Detroit Sports Commission is the nonprofit organization that goes after these big events. And as you know, Scott and Madman, I mean, we've had the Super Bowl here. We had the the MLB All-Star Game. The NCAA men's basketball, second round, what is that? The regionals. The regionals
Right.
are coming back to Little Caesars Arena. They were supposed to hold the Frozen Four, from hockey, but that got postponed during COVID. So Detroit has not been rescheduled for the Frozen Four for ice hockey. Some of the other events are, the wrestling championships for the NCAA. They've hosted the United States Figure Skating Championships a couple of years ago. Oakland Hills Golf Course, of course, is going to have 2 U.S. Opens for the men and 2 Women's Open coming up in the next decade and a half. So Detroit's trying to go after these big events. They're not as competitive on some of them like Indianapolis is, for example, but they do have a good group of men and women that try to get these events here.
Well, we know a lot of the money circulating there is from Dan Gilbert and Ilitch, the Ilitch family, Mike Ilitch, Chris Ilitch, and of course Tom Gores was involved as well. So, but that $200 million impact, the Ford Field and the Ford family, I mean, let's face it, to me, that, you're dangling some good cash out there. Mark, obviously being from the outside, I'm sure you're probably learning really quickly that there's a lot of money in downtown Detroit with a lot of these teams being so close.
Well, the renovation project, Detroit has been behind Cleveland and Pittsburgh. They had a leg up on Detroit for years. You saw the renovation, what they've done in those 2 cities. And Detroit's trying to throw their name in the hat now because everybody seems to be going to Nashville and Las Vegas. The weather's a little bit better in those cities. So, like George alluded to, you get this thing in April. It's a flip of the coin on, the weather, the elements. You could have snow, the nor'easters blow in there late and stuff. But I like the way Detroit's, laying it out there. Nobody thought the Super Bowl was going to work there. It worked. And, now we're trying to get the NFL draft there. I think the big important story is in Detroit is not only getting the draft there, knowing we had a Super Bowl. Let's get the Lions winning some games. The NFC's really not as competitive as the AFC. I need to see the Lions take charge, guys.
Yeah, well, we'll continue to monitor that situation as we go along. But nevertheless, the $200 million impact that Detroit definitely could use a couple of years down the road, I think is important. I know there was a time when they landed Super Bowl 16, but much of that was attributed to the loyalty with the auto industry supporting the league. Now, I don't know whether that's changed a whole lot because I know Hyundai now is the NFL sponsor versus Ford, GM, and Chrysler at that time. And of course, we know the Ford family has been around a long time as well. So, there's a lot of money rolling around. You don't know where it's coming from. And of course, anything is done there. Speaking of Ford Field, we'll segue over to the Quick Lane Bowl. George, do you have any idea what you think the potential revenue sources are there? Or what does Detroit, or let me rephrase the question. What does Detroit actually gain with the Quick Lane Bowl? And the reason why I ask you that is I know we talked earlier that Western Michigan University, when they clobbered Nevada 52-24, generated 22,321. But prior to the Lions taking over the bowl game, the Motor City Bowl brought in a couple of Florida teams. And we were actually at the FAU CMU game that brought in 41,399. If that wasn't good enough, FIU and down out of Miami, Florida Atlantic University, just so you know, is out of Boca Raton, Florida. And that's a school that I happen to cover a lot here with the South Florida Tribune. And Florida International University took on Toledo. That brought in 32,431. So I know that the Quick Lane Bowl / Little Caesars Bowl has only been around 7 years. Why would you change it, George, from one to the other? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense when they were on the right track and drawing fairly well with the amount of promotion put into it prior.
Well, that's a good question, Scott. And man, the Lions took over. They did something basically that no other NFL team did. So I think that was kind of unique for them. They wanted to take over ownership of a college bowl, postseason bowl game. And like you said, Scott, I'm sorry, but the numbers just are not there. The numbers, in fact, have been really, really low since the Lions took over. Now, that being said, unless they have a local team, like you mentioned, Central Michigan or Western Michigan, this bowl, this Motor City Bowl, is played sometimes at a bad time, too. Well, I'll give you an example. The day after Christmas last year at 11 o'clock in the morning, I mean, let's be honest here. Folks have Christmas things and visiting and travel commitments, and that was a terrible time, but that was because that's the time ESPN told you that they'll do the game. And so obviously the Motor City Bowl is usually left with either, that was the first time I ever remember, though, it was in the morning, but usually it's an early afternoon. Sometimes it's been a night game. Getting back to your question, it's a very good question, Scott, because as you know, we had two fellas here named George Perlis and Ken Hoffman. You and I both knew them very well. Right. George, of course, the ex-Michigan State and Pittsburgh coach before he passed on a year or two ago. But they kind of ran that bowl. They did a good job. It used to be at the Silverdome, remember? Mm-hmm. When it was at the Silverdome. And then they moved it to downtown Detroit, and they played it at Ford Field, and the Little Caesars company was involved in sponsorship. It was called the Motor City Bowl. And then the Lions decided to take it over. And like I said, I'm sorry, but the numbers aren't there for the Lions. What are they getting out of this? They're using their own marketing, their own staff to promote it. And quite frankly, I'm sorry, they're not doing a good job. They don't get the attention in the media, and they don't have a big press conference like George Perlis and Ken Hoffman when they were promoting it. They used to have a nice luncheon, remember, for the media, and the coaches were there, and the star quarterbacks were there. It was promoted, and the big three were behind it. The UAW was behind it. I don't see any of that anymore, except for Ford. Obviously, Quick Lane is the Ford Motor Company service company for serving your car. So I know I'm going around in circles here, but
no, you're fine. I guess the main question I'm going to ask you is it are they gaining publicity, or they hope to get a Big Ten championship or national championship? All they have right now to show for all that is what the Mid-American Conference championship game, and that's about it at a very minor low-tier ball. Because I'm seeing the benefit of this particular bowl game, the Quick Lane, Little Caesars Bowl, whatever you want, especially knowing the Motor City Bowl, its predecessor, did a much better job, and the numbers, like we said, validate it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. If you're trying to get the Big Ten title game or the NCAA football championship game, I don't think you're winning too many people over, not based on the city, but based on the crowds, the small crowds that you're getting, like you said, for the Quick Lane Bowl And Mid-American Conference is terrible. They come here to play their championship game, and they like it, but they're drawing flies. I mean, they're lucky to get 12,000 people for Ball State against Miami of Ohio or whoever it is playing for the title game. But I know Detroit really wants to get on the page of those big football college championships, but it's going to be difficult. It's a hard sell right now. But the more hotel rooms Detroit builds, let's face it, that's a big key for any of these events, guys. You got to have the number of hotel rooms, don't you, Madman?
Well, here's the deal. I'm a big college football guy, and I might spring this right outside the realm here. I think the problem with college football, if you want to be a top 10 squad, you got to play a top 10 schedule. Get rid of some of this tradition crap. And let's bring it back to what you were just saying, George. I remember, I think Pittsburgh played in the Motor City Bowl one year with a 5-and-something record. Too many bowl games. Nobody's going. You're right there. I'll take it one step further than the Flies. People are dressing up like Halloween, like an empty chair. Nobody's going to these things.
Right.
And there's too many bowl games, man. Top 10 schedule in college football. If you're Michigan and you're coming into the season as a number 4, number 5, you need to play a top 10 schedule. I don't care. Get rid of these Purdue's, get rid of these Northwesterns, start playing the USC, start playing the Floridas, start playing the Clemsons. That's where people want to see college football going. I don't need to lay out $300 to watch Michigan whack Bowling Green, 105 here. And that's the problem with college football, guys.
Yeah, but you have to understand, though, Mark, from a smaller college, and I deal with a lot with Florida Atlantic University, that they look at them like as exhibition tune-up games. And you know what? These other smaller schools need it because they're depending on these big-ticket games, even though they're getting whacked to build their athletic department. So, well, I agree with you, okay, that you want to play a top 10 schedule. Don't tell me that if you're a small-tier program that you're looking to use football to finance your athletic department, that those guaranteed beatdowns are certainly going to help your athletic department. But you're right, Mark. I'm not disputing that. The competition is much different, but regardless, if you're in Florida Atlantic University and FIU, you want those guaranteed games no matter what's going to happen in order to finance your athletic department. But I understand, and you never know. I mean, again, college football is changing, and we can get into 9 million different broadcasts on that. And we will down the road, but not tonight. But the reality is do I really wonder if the Lions are qualified to really continue with the numbers of the Quick Lane Bowl? Right now, the results just don't look good. Then I think they made a mistake with the Motor City Bowl, and now all of a sudden you've gone down. I'm not criticizing the Lions, but the numbers bear me out. I don't have to.
Yeah.
I read you off.
Yeah.
3 attendance figures, 22, 321 to go down I-94 from Kalamazoo, and then Central Michigan and Toledo, where Central Michigan is like here, the middle of the mitten, okay, and then Toledo down 75, about an hour away. Not too bad knowing that they finance it. I know many Florida teams didn't certainly take the trip to go up, FIU and FAU to go up there. Although I have to tell you, I enjoyed going to that game. For me, covering FAU, being part of the enemy against a Michigan team. But no, that was a good time.
I mean, the Lions, I don't know exactly what they're getting out of it, to be honest with you. But I do have to tell you, like I shared with you earlier, that the job that the previous regime did, to me, was much more cognizant of the community and much more visible. And they took the team to the Henry Ford, which is the old name Henry Ford Village. They took the kids to Children's Hospital. I mean, the teams, they had publicity events. I just don't see the Lions giving that kind of detail to try to get these two teams out in the community. I know they got to practice for this game when they get in town. They only have a few days. But the job that George Perlis and Kenny Hoffman did, to me, was much more visible than what the Lions are doing now. And I can't explain it because I know the Lions, I'm sure will tell you they have their heart in it. But and like you said earlier, Madman, I mean, this is a tier 2 bowl. It's a the old term flea bag bowl. I mean, you're not gonna attract a lot of people, but you sure as hell got to try to promote it better. Okay.
Well, the only thing the Lions are really getting out of it, to be honest with you, an opportunity to see two college teams in their building, do a little scouting. I'll be curious how many of these guys are actually getting picked up by him anyways. And more importantly, I got another one in my backyard, the Boca Raton Bowl. And I didn't see Bailey Zapp here, who got subsequently picked up by New England, but I did have an opportunity to see Zach Wilson shred Central Florida right down the road. That worked out well. So, we'll see. The Lions are getting a free opportunity to scout. They're not having to leave the building, but the numbers aren't what they are. Okay, one other subject I want to get to tonight, guys, is Major League Soccer. I don't talk a lot about it here, but again, this falls into the realm of the Ford Field theme. Okay, the MLS, to me, for a lot of you folks want to know what the word double standard is, I'm going to go ahead and explain it to you. George, why don't you give a little bit of background about the jail site and what the Lions were looking to try to do to expedite the possibilities of a potential situation at Ford Field that never materialized?
Yeah, Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, of course, is a wealthy businessman in Detroit. He has loan company, giant loan company. Dan Gilbert had the plan to build a soccer-only stadium, again, right near, not far from Ford Field, and it would have been at our old jail site, which was proposed on a street called Gratiot. But anyways, it's very close to Ford Field. So Gilbert had this great plan. He was going to go in, and Tom Gores was even supporting him. Now, Tom owns the Pistons, and Tom Gores and Dan Gilbert were going to go in and build this stadium. They're going to buy this land from the city, from the county, where the jail was supposed to be built, a new jail. They don't want the jail downtown anymore. They want to move it outside the downtown area. Then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, guys, but the Lions got their interest was piqued. So the Lions and Mrs. Ford, Martha Ford, and her daughter Sheila, somehow they got involved in this whole thing. Okay, so then they came back with some other proposal to Gilbert and to Gores, and they said, "Wait a minute, why don't you just play in Ford Field? Why do you have to build a new stadium?" Well, supposedly from what we heard, the MLS, the soccer league, was not happy about that. That they said that, no, we told you a long time ago, if you want an expansion team, you got to have your own stadium, soccer-specific stadium. And that's what Dan Gilbert and Tom Gores were going to do, but then they needed a little bit more revenue. Is from what I heard, is they needed a little additional boost to afford this. I should have said that earlier. I apologize, but they needed that's when the Fords got involved. But when the Fords got involved, they says, we'll get involved, but you put this team at Ford Field.
Well, Don Garber's the commissioner for Major League Soccer. Now, here's where it gets interesting, Mark and George. Okay, when I talk about double standard, Atlanta plays where the Falcons are playing. I use the lower bowl there. Nobody's got a problem with it. In fact, when Candy Abley and I were there covering the Jaguars and the Falcons, I saw it. It looked pretty cool. Seattle's playing where the Seattle Sounders play where the Seahawks play, same venue. Charlotte's playing over in the same spot there. The New England Revolution, I guess they call them, are playing at Gillette Stadium, home of the Patriots. Vancouver plays in BC Place, Canadian Football League, and Chicago Soldier Field. So now, if I remember right, George, okay, wasn't that jail partly built? They would have had to have taken it down, and they didn't complete it, and then they would have had to start over. Wasn't there additional costs there?
Yes.
Well,
yeah, a good point, Scott. That for our listeners and our viewers, they had started construction on this new jail, so there were some girders in the ground and some of the steel framework, not a whole lot, but it was there. That they would have had to take all that apart and all down, which they now have, by the way. But they decided to build the jail. Gilbert is building the jail for them over on another part of the Detroit northeast side. It's called Warren Avenue, and the I-75 freeway. Around that area is where the new jail is going to be built. But you're right. There was some construction, and that would have taken, but that wouldn't have delayed it too much. I agree with you. This is like a double standard. You go and tell Detroit, oh no, we need a soccer only stadium, and then you're allowing several other franchises, like you mentioned, Scott.
All right, Mark, what's your take on this?
Well, here's the thing. In the MLS, let's face it, guys. I mean, I remember that when the National Hockey League came into existence, there was the original 6. Growing up, my Penguins would draw 6,000. The Kings out here would draw 6,000. Nobody was coming till, guys like John Ziegler and Gary Bettman came about and they started bringing hockey into these warm West cities, and people said you couldn't survive. I don't know what the MLS is doing here. I mean, if the Ford family gives them an olive branch to play the games in Detroit, I don't care if it's in the jail house out or in Ford Field. Just play the darn thing. You're going to get an expansion team in Detroit, and the Ford's got money to help you out. So I don't understand what the MLS is doing on that. And that's the big problem here, guys. I mean, soccer's trying to get an even footing in the States here. It's not as big as the Latin countries across the world and stuff like that. And when we Mickey Mouse around here and we don't put it in the city after we say you need to do it in, just get your foot in the door. I mean, it's like standing there saying you want $100 for something. And the guy goes, well, I got 95. And you go, no, I need $5 more. And the guy walks out, you lost a deal.
Well, here's the deal, Mark. Okay. Let me tell you this. And this is a thing that boggles my mind. You've got the Fords they're billionaires. Tom Gores is a billionaire. And then you got Dan Gilbert, who's a billionaire. And the Illiches are billionaires. You've got more money in Detroit than probably any of these other markets you're in. In fact, it's so dysfunctional. And don't get me wrong, Inter Miami's building a new stadium over at Freedom Park, but it's taken them a long time to get that thing down near the Miami International Airport. But we're playing right now in an 18,000-seat stadium, and formerly the site of Lockhart Stadium. They built a brand new place, one of the nicest 18,000-seat stadiums. And because of Dave Beckham's involvement, they've tolerated a lot of dysfunction. And you know about David Beckham, in L.A. But think about it, Mark. You've got I'll reiterate what I said. Ford's money, you got Gore's money, you got Illich's money, and you got Gilbert. There's no way you'll ever have a bounce check with any of those players at all. And especially when you look at the fact that the Pistons went from the suburbs down to downtown Detroit and built their own facility over at Wayne State, as I understand it. But we'll stay on point with MLS. Mark, have you seen anything so idiotic and insane and toxic with MLS, knowing that you have that much money amongst 4 particular separate entities? That to me is the part.
The only other place I see that is in San Diego, where I lived for 3 years covering the Padres and Chargers. They gave the Padres a new place, and the Chargers were left in Qualcomm, which was a complete dump. Right. And so the Chargers, came up to L.A. and were the redheaded stepchild, and everybody was bitching and moaning in San Diego how we lost our Chargers. Well, if you're going to build something for somebody and you're not going to build it for the other, well, the other is going to go somewhere else where, they're going to have an opportunity. What's wrong with that?
Good point. I
agree with you. I agree with you guys. Scott, you hit it right on the head. You got these billionaire guys here. They were going to work it out. Okay, so if the Lions took a hardline approach and said, no, you can play it at Ford Field, you can't let other teams do this. You're expanding that league so much. You know that Detroit is selling out every game. This team we've got right now, it's not the MLS, but it's a step below, and playing in a league, and they're packing this little stadium. You remember, Scott, in Hamtramck, a small city, small Polish town. It started in the center of Detroit, Hamtramck, and they sell out every game, Detroit FC or whatever they're called. These fans are rabid. They're crazy. And yeah, it's only 7,000, but my gosh, you can't tell me Detroit wouldn't have supported this team. They would have. This is a multi-ethnic city and metropolitan area, as you guys know.
Well, we'll take it a step further. We'll take it a step further when they had the Detroit Express over at the Pontiac Silverdome. Trevor Francis was your draw, and they weren't that bad there either.
Remember?
People have to really go. Of course I remember. I'm
sure.
That crowd. But yeah, I mean, the reality, that's why we're doing Fire Up Michigan, folks, because that's where I'm from anyways. But yeah, all right. But Mark, I mean, you're getting a little soccer lesson here.
Yeah, well, and I'll take it one step further, guys. I mean, look at the old East Coast Hockey League, and out here we had the West Coast Hockey League, the San Diego Gulls, and then you had to look at the IHL with Kalamazoo. I mean, those franchises were drawing fans left and right too. Right. I mean, they built it right, and that's the thing. You know, something's better than nothing. But when you stand here and play games at these things, and people are going to say, okay, the hell with it. We're going to go do it somewhere else. And it's sad.
Well, I was at Qualcomm Stadium. I've actually been to a few games over there, so I know exactly
I
what you're
covered
talking
a lot of years there. It was outdated itself. It wasn't really a cookie cutter type of thing. But, if they're going to build one for the Padres in Petco downtown, it was great. They cleaned up downtown. The Chargers were left in that place, and they wanted a stadium or refurbish it or something. The city didn't do nothing. It's like anything in families and anything. You can't have 3 kids and treat one great and the other 2 like crap.
Right.
Sooner or later, it's going to turn on you. And that's the thing here. I mean, if you got teams in the city, look what they did in Pittsburgh, guys. And I don't want to blow my own horn on this, but the Pirates got a place, the Steelers got a place, and the Penguins got a place. And the Pirates have been, the third best in that city for years.
Well, they've done that actually in Detroit, too. All the teams have brand new stadiums. It's just to be able to build a soccer stadium when you could have had the lower bowl of Ford Field to do it. And I saw the same model in Atlanta, okay? Yeah. I saw it in Atlanta with my own 4 eyes because I'm wearing glasses now, okay? With the Jaguars and the Falcons. So you can do it for them. And again, I know the other cities are probably the same, but you're right. You have to treat them all even. I'm going to tell you, in Detroit, they treat them all even. The Pistons and Red Wings share a place. Tigers have their own place, and the Lions. So they're okay there. And,
and I think, Scott, you hit on a good point earlier when you talked about these rich families that would have been involved. You want a strong league. If you're the MLS, you want a strong league. You want strong ownership. And what you did is, like you said, Scott, they turned their back on guys like Gores and Gilbert and Fords and Illiches. That was a dumb move. I'm sorry. You blocked Detroit from all those expansion opportunities. But not only that, you turned your back on some guys that could help your league somewhere down the road. And you know what I mean? And be a backbone for your league. Well, and that, I think, was a foolish move by the MLS.
Well, did you ever forget it was a major television market either? Come on, Mark, you live in one, right? I mean, you don't get much bigger than the one you're at, right? Let everybody know where you're really from.
You can't cut off, and George hit it too. I mean, you can't cut off your nose in spite of your face if you're getting an opportunity and you stand there and you dictate all the things you want and everything. Well, all of a sudden that deal falls off the table and onto the floor, and you got to pick up and try to, sell it to somewhere else. And, I look at the MLS, I mean, being a little snooty, maybe a little arrogant there. They thought, well, we got all these other cities, and instead of working with Detroit and everything. And we've always talked about this on the show, guys. Money comes and goes, but building relationships is priceless. Yeah. Maybe we've lost 3 things in this country that it's going to take a while to get back, and it's accountability, communication, and integrity.
No question about it. Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong. I've really enjoyed working with Major League Soccer now that I have Inter Miami, and we'll be doing a Fire Up Florida show on them in the not so distant future as well. So I'm kind of connected with them, but I still often wonder why the Detroit thing turned out to be the MLS gaffe, is what I call it. That you gave away the opportunity to get involved with billionaires in a major media market over the jail site when you had Ford Field ready made and all that. Really? Okay. Yeah. I don't buy it. But anyways, so folks, the theme tonight is football in more ways than one. Is it the FUTBOL version, the MLS version, or the one that we call pigskin, as in PIGSKIN? So if you're looking for that thing where you use the foot and you kick the ball, and we were able to find it in all 3 fronts. We went from, obviously, the NFL tonight with the NFL draft to college football, and then to that round version of it called football, as it's universally known around the country. But this is Fire Up Michigan. My name is Scott Morganroth. I'm Motor City Manuel, probably appropriately named for this. People wonder why you use it everywhere else. That's where I'm from, and I'm proud of it. Glad to be joined by George Eichorn and Madman Mancini. Mark and I involved in a lot of projects, and this is certainly one of them, and we have a lot of other ones that were in the works as well. So anyways, Mark, any closing thoughts about any of the topics that we talked about? The Lions getting the draft, the Quick Lane Bowl, or the MLS gap that they burned their bridge and turned their back on Detroit? Talk about any of them, or all 3 of them.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm blessed to do this each and every time with you guys and being a part of Detroit, learning from you and George, and it's just simply amazing. I absorb it like a sponge, and God, you guys are not only brothers and friends, you're definitely mentors to me. So I'm blessed each and every time we do this.
Well, we're glad to have you. All right, George, any thoughts about one or all three of the topics that we talked about tonight?
Well, I think the discussion was a great one today, and I really appreciate you bringing these topics up, Scott, to us. These are important things, and let's not lose sight of the fact that Detroit is on a turnaround. Downtown Detroit, for people that have not been down there at all lately, you will be shocked. You will see housing, you will see apartments and condos all around downtown. We are experiencing a boom right now. And I'm telling you right now, I know this wasn't a topic tonight, but NBA and NHL, you better allow us to host those all-star games and those drafts because Detroit's ready. I mean, we might not have every hotel built yet, but Detroit is on the comeback trail. And like you said earlier, Madman, we're a little bit behind the curve with Cleveland and Pittsburgh, but we're catching up fast.
Well, let me also point out a couple of things. I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually do it. But the one thing people have to understand about Detroit when it comes to hotels, when you compare the NFL draft, I'm glad they're getting the NFL draft. The NFL's always been loyal to the Detroit area, whether it goes back to when they had the original Super Bowl 16, because I know the economy back then wasn't very good. So that revenue helped Metro Detroit out a great deal at a time when they definitely needed it. And they kept their promise by giving them another Super Bowl when they built it, versus other places that are building them, but they don't have a special hotel or they're not going to have it outside. But the NFL has been true to Metro Detroit. I think the one thing that you can't lose sight of with all of this stuff is this. And I mentioned the NFL and the Quick Lane Bowl. Yeah, I mean, that's all well and good. I think the exposure, but soccer to me is a real mind-boggling thing. But I want to make sure that the focus of this whole show is on downtown Detroit and the revitalization and the hard work of many to try to get this place there. But you know what's also made it possible? Okay, we talk about the fact that Detroit spent more than most people realize. I mean, before the Raiders moved to Vegas, okay, what were they going to do? Kick the Lions out because you had legalized gambling in downtown Detroit with 3 major hotels? No, you weren't going to do that. And then when you think of how many other towns have gambling now, and Detroit, again, you're not kicking the Lions out because you got it. And now we see all these betting things that have materialized as a result of it. So a lot of good has come by there. Again, down the road, we hope the Lions will get a little bit better, but we won't talk about it tonight, but they'll be better because they're going to host a marquee event, and hopefully that $200 million will mean a little something to them, and hopefully it'll exceed a lot more. I guess they need a little help from Philadelphia when it comes to booing or New York, but they'll have a little bit of time to work on those vocal cords in about 2 years to make sure they boo the commissioner, because everybody does it anyway. So with that said, okay, I'm not booing you guys though. So George, with that said, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you and that other thing called a book. Make sure you go into some detail about it.
Sure, I'm available for conversation with you at geichorn@yahoo.com or SNGsports99 at Twitter. And also, as Scott alluded to, there's a book out there called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air, which features a lot of great history about Detroit announcers: Ernie Harwell, Ray Lane, Paul Carey, Bud Lynch, Bruce Martin, Van Patrick, and yes, Scott Morganroth. Scott was early in his broadcast career, but I got a special page featuring you, Scott, in my book, and a couple of old pictures of you with that guy Muhammad Ali, another one with a guy named Jimmy Connors. God, those were great times, Scott. You've been a part of the Detroit sports scene for a long, long time, and now you're in Florida. But that being said, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air is available at the South Florida Tribune website.
Yeah, 42 years working with you from the beginning, from WXYZ Sports Talk all the way to what we've been doing now, Sports Exchange and whatnot. All right, Mark Mancini, before I let you go on there a little bit, I want to mention some of the projects that Mark and I are working on together. Number one, I enjoy going on Sports Talk Saturday with Mark Mancini and Bruce Kessinger. We have a lot of fun on Saturday. So my thanks to Bruce Kessinger for allowing me to participate on that show. Mark and I obviously work on the Fire Up Florida series as well as Fire Up Michigan. Fire Up Wisconsin is in the works. Fire Up Carolinas will be in the works, as well as other ones as well. And of course, Mark always finds a way to get me on other shows as well. So I'm eternally grateful for that. With that said, Mark, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, and then I'll go ahead and let everybody know how they get a hold of me.
Blessed to work with both of you guys, and yeah, part of XM Sirius, also WWDB AM 860 out of Philadelphia with Marianne Costello, Sal Tartaglia. I do the Pittsburgh Pirate podcast with their first base coach, Terrence Brock, twice a week. Part of a lot of shows, Cleveland with Peter Ray out there, Fresno with Mark Heffernan. Then I'm part of all these other shows, not only what you alluded to, New York with Keith Engel, Atlanta with Logan Landers. I mean, just so many good things. And the Lord's blessed us. And, I always tell people this thing doesn't come overnight. You got to put your work in, you got to put the time in, and then sooner or later you get to reap what you sow.
Yeah, and also, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet 108 Stitches Baseball Talk host Lou Landers, who does a really good job as well. So I don't want a little shout out to them. So as far as we're concerned, if you're watching on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, you're seeing it. If you're not, okay, you can find the broadcast here on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Also subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel for nothing, and then you'll be able to see all the broadcasts and all our facial expressions, hats, whatever. And also go to www.southfloridatribune.com, or you can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com, and also on Twitter at Tribune South. Programming note, Fire Up Wisconsin debuts next week. Candy Ebling and Eric Katz will be a part of that broadcast. And I should point out a very big part of that broadcast. The only thing I could probably guarantee on that broadcast is Mark Mancini and I will not lose our voice, because Eric and Candy, light it up. Candy's not no ordinary woman that doesn't know what she's talking about. She's packed with a lot of information. Nothing against you ladies, so don't draw any conclusions there. But Candy Ebling will put on a clinic with her sports knowledge. And I'll tell you what, George, you work with Eric Katz. This kid is smart. He's a 27-year-old that acts like a 50, 60-year-old. And Mark Mancini, if you and I are lucky to collectively get 10 to 12 minutes airtime during a 50 to 60-minute show, that we should be eternally grateful, because we're going to learn a whole lot. And we're going to just sit back and have a front row seat while they make sure that they take care of it, Wisconsin, and go ahead and represent them well. And of course, Greg Fuchs helps out here on the Fire Up Florida. But I want to let everybody know, Fire Up Wisconsin is coming up with Candy Ebling and Eric Katz. And down the road, we're working on Fire Up Carolinas. Rick Curdy could be involved, but we're still working on some details there. And Mark and I have a lot of other things. But meanwhile, so the Renaissance in Detroit sports, obviously what it's all about tonight. And we're talking about football, however you want to pronounce it. But I guarantee whatever we do, the foot will connect with the ball. And that is tonight's theme tonight. So meanwhile, on behalf of George Eichorn and Mad Mancini, my name is Scott Morgan, Rock the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Fire Up Michigan. And until the next time, everybody, take care. God bless and have a wonderful evening. Enjoyed doing it with my two favorite co-hosts. They are, as Dick Vitale would say, University of Detroit would say, awesome, baby. Yes, a little bit loud. Okay. What do you expect from me? So take care, everybody. Have a good night. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.